This is a teaching about cravings. Have you ever had intense food cravings? Ever find yourself constantly thinking about a specific food like nachos, bacon, cookies, to then only indulge or go overboard even on a different food? Well, I'm going to share with you how these cravings happen so that you can begin to target the culprit of them and eat in a more balanced way. Food cravings happen for a number of reasons that we know about so far. And I'm gonna share three of the most common and maybe touch on some other things. The number one reason is usually the restriction of food. So if you're cutting out carbs or sugar, trying to eat less, or if you try to restrict the amount of calories you're having in a day, you're not getting enough food. Energy is needed. This is going to trigger cravings, likely in a response to your blood sugar being imbalanced because your body's not getting the essential fuel that you actually need to function, including brain and muscle function. When your blood sugar falls, your body needs energy. The way to get energy is through carbs. So, cravings that you're having, maybe for pasta, bread, cookies, that part is kind of subjective. But basically, your body's hungry and you need quick energy. And sending that signal or that craving is your body attempting to get that energy that you need. The second reason is a specific nutrient deficiency. So if you're not eating enough food, or more importantly, enough variety of food, or your body's not able to absorb those nutrients from food that you're eating, it's likely going to be causing a craving because it's a signal your body's going to send to you, basically alerting you that something is off. This could be a need for macronutrients, calories like carbs, fat, water, protein, or specific micronutrients, salt, iron, iodine, vitamins, minerals, or something we haven't even discovered yet. The third reason for cravings is poor sleep. When you aren't sleeping well, this lack of rest and rejuvenation can alter the body's balance of hunger hormones and other things as well by producing more of the hormone ghrelin, which increases your hunger and your appetite and sparks those food cravings. One of my patients questioned, why do we have different food cravings other than sugar? What can be done about it? For example, craving fats like nuts and grabbing a handful of them even after eating a healthy, well-balanced meal. This is a great question. Almost everybody that I've educated has some kind of craving sometimes. Could be for healthy food or foods that are not so good for us. Before I answer this question, let's talk about some background on cravings again. I know for the most part, cravings are thought to be due to lack of willpower and that we just crave to eat or drink something we shouldn't, or gravitate toward a healthy food such as nuts when we should be satisfied after eating a full meal. The lack of willpower actually isn't the case. There are various reasons why we have cravings. So let's look at some of these again. How will we go about fixing these underlying issues? So again, the blood sugar levels throughout the day. Have you noticed if your cravings are worse when you've gone a long period of time without eating, like 3 or 4 hours? That might not seem like a long period of time for a lot of people, but for the body, it could be. When your blood sugar levels dip low, The body's main job is to get it back up to normal or into a comfortable range. You will crave foods that break down into glucose rapidly so your cells have fuel. And then it wants to get the blood sugar to rise as fast as possible. So typically people crave the processed carbs either in a salty form like chips, popcorn, crackers, bread, or sugary forms. Candy, ice cream, cookies, chocolate. One way to combat these cravings is to eat a balanced snack or a balanced meal every 3 to 4 hours to keep your blood sugar levels stable. And when I say balanced, I'm referring to eating animal protein, typically a vegetable carbohydrate, typically, and a healthy fat, typically. So let's look at what my patient was craving here. She was gravitating towards salty nuts. When we're rummaging around in the pantry looking for something such as salted nuts, we're craving fat from the nuts to help us balance our blood sugar, typically. I would ask, has it been more than 3 or 4 hours since your last meal or snack? Or did you indulge in too many starchy carbs or sugary ones, like I just previously mentioned, and causing the blood sugar to go high? Low blood sugar and high blood sugar may be making you gravitate toward a fat, like nuts. Other things that people may crave when their blood sugars are out of whack are sour cream, peanut butter, fried foods. Speaking of foods we eat, another thing to reflect upon in regards to cravings is how much protein you're eating daily. Not getting enough protein leads to cravings. So you may be asking yourself, what does eating enough good quality animal protein typically have to do with cravings? Well, proteins break down into amino acids in our body. That's the building blocks for making the feel-good chemicals in our brain, known as neurotransmitters. A few neurotransmitters you may have heard of are serotonin, dopamine. When we have adequate and steady levels of those feel-good chemicals in our brain, it can really minimize our cravings. The goal is to get a minimum of 12 to 14 ounces of animal protein spread throughout the day in increments of 4 to 5 ounces at meals and a few ounces at snacks to maintain those adequate levels of those neurotransmitters or feel-good chemicals in our brain. Men may need slightly more protein than this, like 6 ounces of protein at meals, 2 to 3 ounces at snacks. So for the person that asked the question about wanting nuts after a meal, it could be that they didn't eat enough protein at the meal, or they didn't eat enough protein earlier in the day. It can indicate that they're trying to hit those feel-good sensors in their brain, particularly serotonin sensors. When they light up in our brain, we feel calm. It lessens anxiety. It provides us some inner peace. People also gravitate towards starchy carbs like bread, cereal, pasta, crackers, chips, French fries, and chocolate to get the same effect with the rush of serotonin in the brain. Okay, we discussed these reasons in more detail. And so let's look at a couple more. Let's reflect again on gut health, like we talked about a few weeks ago. If your gut is unhealthy, there are a few problems you might experience. First of all, you may struggle with symptoms like heartburn, feeling full, quickly bloating, feeling full quickly, bloating, gas, constipation, and or diarrhea. When you're placing good, healthy foods in your body, your gut may not be able to break them down or absorb the nutrients properly when you have an unhealthy gut, leaving you with deficiencies in the body. With these deficiencies, you're going to crave certain kinds of food. So, for example, if you haven't extracted and absorbed enough magnesium from your foods, you might experience chocolate cravings. If you aren't getting enough zinc in your diet, you'll experience cravings for sweets after meals. If you're low on iron, you may start chewing on ice or anything. I actually saw this when I worked at WIC, where I counseled quite a few pregnant women that were low on iron, and they actually told me they wanted to eat dirt. If you crave salt, such as my patient that asked about the nut craving after a meal, that can indicate a potassium deficiency. It's interesting how our bodies respond when we're deficient in something. We may need a second thing. That happens with an unhealthy gut. Is that unhealthy gut microbiome or those bad gut bugs chirping at us to eat more unhealthy? So they want fed, those unhealthy gut bugs, so they can continue to grow, proliferate. If we stop eating foods that they like, they can no longer grow. Eventually, they die off. In addition to no longer eating processed unhealthy foods, you can also take a good quality probiotic to ensure there are enough good bugs or healthy gut microbiome so you can digest properly and absorb nutrients that you need. So you don't experience some of those deficiencies. And then remember, if you don't get enough sleep, which is considered 7.5 to 8 hours nightly, you will on average typically eat 600 more calories a day. 300 of those will be good or healthy foods, possibly 300 typically bad, unhealthy foods. We gravitate towards those unhealthy foods like sugar, caffeine, for the pick-me-up feeling, for being sluggish or low energy or lack of sleep. We grab for those things. But I would ask my patient with that question if they're getting adequate sleep. Do they notice the cravings are different depending on their sleep level? If they're lacking sleep, are the cravings worse? Typically they are. As a side note, those that crave other things such as sugary rich foods like ice cream, Twizzlers, Smarties, maybe caffeinated beverages, nicotine, alcohol, they're all trying to light up their dopamine receptors in their brain. People with low dopamine often experience low motivation, difficulty concentrating, eating disorder-like symptoms, low self-esteem, depression. They will reach for these kinds of food and beverages or other substances to temporarily feel better, to only experience a crash shortly thereafter. When a craving strikes, I would reflect back and look at how balanced is the blood sugar at the time of the craving. You may need to eat more than you currently are to keep your blood sugar balanced. And that's why I suggest something called the Food Lovers Fat Loss System. You can Google that on YouTube or ask me about it. Also, are you eating enough protein? 4 to 5 ounces at meals, a few ounces at snacks, little more than this if you're a male, to build those feel-good neurotransmitters for the brain. And how healthy is your gut? And are you getting adequate sleep? So it's kind of a puzzle. All these pieces fit together to prevent the cravings. So I hope this provides a little bit better understanding why we do have cravings. I'm sure there's much more we will learn in the future about these things. This may help tackle some things in a lot of people. Okay, and also just want to mention, common time cravings arise is during pregnancy. So, of course, these are also typically related to nutrient deficiencies when they've looked at that. It is possible cravings can be fueled by memories, certain times of the year, smells, holidays we just came through. Many people can identify with that. So just be aware cravings can become overwhelming. They can lead to overeating and feelings of guilt. It becomes a vicious cycle. This can happen when we restrict ourselves, especially this time of the year. People start making New Year's resolutions. So a balanced eating plan is more important now than ever. If you crave chocolate, you could keep some dark chocolate on hand. Eat it mindfully, enjoy it, put it away when you're satisfied. Couple other tips: schedule your snacks, don't skip them. Plan for nutritious snacks to keep your body fed. Keep portable, nutrient dense snacks in your desk, your backpack, your car. You can also try a different approach. Take a walk, work on a hobby, call a friend. Of course, these can divert the mind, and your craving may go away. Consider it may be a behavioral thing as well. Or you can keep a craving journal to help identify what is triggering this. Note the time of day your craving appears, how long it lasts, the food that you're craving, and how you responded to it. So, all of this to help you say goodbye to your cravings by addressing how you approach your nutrition goals in this new year, and just to help you with underlying causes that may be overlooked. Thank you for your attention.